Tales of Mithrym.
Scales of Justice. Read by Ennatos. Part 7. Footprints. But how? And for that matter, why? Elvin was puzzling over the scattered pieces of the broken barn. Dragons are dumb beasts, just lumbering lizards, really. Surely they would have been after the animals. You saw them back at the stables. They just gorge themselves until they fall asleep. I know, but you have to admit, this does look a lot like their sort of handiwork, doesn't it? Derville said, leaning over Elvin's shoulder to look. Elvin straightened up and looked back at the city walls far away in the distance. Besides, how would it even have gotten out? I'm pretty sure they are chained up at night. He looked up at the sky. Well, except for the ones that do night patrol. Just then, they heard the sound of running footsteps, and Ducky rounded the barn. You need to come and have a look at this, he said as soon as he saw them. The two of them ran to follow him. He had come over from the fields of grain, in the middle of which was a large circle of burned and tattered wheat. It did not look as though it had been chewed at, so much as trampled and then set on fire. They stood in the middle of it, staring round in amazement. What could have... Elvin began, but Ducky quickly pointed to several patches of softer earth. Leaning down, Elvin could make out the shapes of... footprints? He explained, standing upright again and looking at Ducky. Elvin stroked his chin. I still cannot believe it, though. They could not have slipped out of the city, surely. Derville had been thinking. They're not dragons, though, are they? The others looked puzzled. Okay, not dragons. I mean, dragons are stories from ages ago. These things, well, they said they found them, right? Somewhere in the wilderness around here? Maybe they didn't find all of them. That is about the first sensible thing I've heard in a while, Elvin said with a smile. Derville beamed. Well then, Elvin continued, if that is the case, we should be able to track it back to a nest or cave of some sort. If we can do that, we can report it and be done. It shouldn't be a problem. Ducky grinned, hopping up and running over to another spot in the field. It looks like it didn't fly the whole way. You can see these patches where it must have stopped. Maybe that's how it hunts. Could be, I suppose. Elvin thought it over. Well, we have a trail. It seems the only thing to do is follow it. They did so. They were thankful for the moonlight to help them. Without it, they could have easily lost the trail at any point. As it is, the landing points seemed to get close and closer together until, at last, they were following a standard trail of footprints through the night. Before they knew it, the trail had led them to what looked like a rocky cliff edge. It was a few moments before they realized it was, in point of fact, the city wall. They had arced their way through the plains and come back full circle onto the city itself. But what now? Occasionally, a warden would pass overhead. However, there did not seem to be any foot patrol in this area. Go back to the main gates, Derville said to them. I'll wait on the other side. Come find me. Elvin was going to ask her what she meant, but as soon as she had spoken, she began to climb the wall, her hands cleverly finding and using notches and crags in the stonework. Moments later, she disappeared across the top of the wall, a small shadow in the broader shadow of night. With a shrug, the two men made their way back to the gates. It took more time than before to pass through, and there were questions about Derville's whereabouts. They assured the soldiers and wardens that she would be along presently, and were, at length, allowed in. It was hard finding their way to where Derville had crossed the wall, though. The inner streets of the city curved and crossed and zigzagged so often that without the sun to guide, one could easily lose all sense of direction. In time, though, they found her, waiting patiently by the wall. She signaled down to the flagged street beneath them. Not footprints this time, but scratches. Thin lines that could easily have been missed among the cart tracks were in patches starting from the wall and heading in towards the city center. They continued on until at last they came to the warden's station. So it is one of theirs? Elvin exclaimed in a whisper. It certainly looks that way, said Ducky, pointing to the tracks as they continued to the stables. But they could not get out of... Elvin looked on in wonder. Let's get a closer look, Derville said, gesturing for them to follow. Walking up the side alley and into the stable yard, they found the beasts sleeping in their stalls. Those padlocks look heavy enough to me, said Ducky, eyeing the chains that held each beast in. That only leaves one option, Elvin said gravely. It must have been a warden that took it out. The gravity of this hit them all hard. Derville nodded. You're right. Good evening, Lieutenant. It looks like you've got some good news for me. The captain had just walked out into the yard. The three of them leapt and turned to face him. Good evening, sir, Elvin called back. That sounded promising. Something about pigs, right? The captain walked up close to them. We found tracks, sir, yes. We were just confirming what sort of size the creature could have made them. Elvin straightened up as he talked, holding to attention as he gave his report. It would seem the attack was a wild animal. Oh, I see, the captain nodded. A large one, after the farm animals? Yes, sir, Elvin saluted. It would seem so. Good work, Lieutenant, good work. We'll make a warden of you yet. Well, that should appease the Patriarch. We'll double the Sky Patrol and keep an eye out for any more. Should be sorted in a day or so. The captain slapped Elvin on the back. Good job. Get some sleep. He made to walk away. And see, things go better when you follow orders, don't they? Good night, you three. And he left. Elvin untensed. You lied to him, Derville whispered. Elvin shushed her and led them all out of the stables. He refused to talk until they were back at their lodgings. It was a small place, an attic in a tall building near the city center. They had minimal supplies there, spending most of their time on duty. What is going on? Derville pushed once they were safely inside. Keep your voice down, Elvin whispered. I don't trust this, any of this. He made his way over and looked out a small window onto the street outside. The only way that a dragon could have gotten out, he continued, was if someone let it out. And that means a warden. We do not know which one, and we do not know why. So what do we do? Asked Ducky. Tell the captain, or maybe the commander. We could go to the military. No, Derville stepped in, thinking hard. No, the wardens here would just accuse us of collaborating again if we started accusing them of things. It would be our word against theirs. Well, then what? Ducky continued. Go to the embassy? No, said Elvin. Notley wants a reason to hold us up. He would accuse us of being disobedient or upsetting our hosts. Then what? Ducky roared. The other two shushed him as quietly as they could. I think there's only one thing we can do, said Elvin. We have to catch them in the act. I doubt this is the first time one of them will have gone out on a joyride like this, and I'm willing to bet that they will do it again. When? Asked Derville. Elvin thought. Tonight, I reckon. They would be happy that things have calmed down now, thanks to us. They all shivered at the thought of more work, but resolved themselves to go out. It was getting on towards midnight now, as they set up across from the warden station. All three were positioned on the street top, sat under a low canopy behind boxes. It looked like it would be a long night, but they waited.
Tales of Mithrym are written by Jimmy Clephane. Mithrym is a fantasy world built for the Dungeon Room role-playing game system. To find out more about the world of Mithrym, or to try out the game, go to www.mithrym.com.